Good morning, this is Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Now, Senegal's newly elected president, Diomaye Faye, has appointed firebrand politician Ousmane Sonko as his prime minister. Sonko was in a battle with the government, a legal battle for over 2 years. It was a defamation battle, and as a ruling, he was barred from participating in the elections of the country. Therefore, he appointed his top lieutenant, that is Diomaye Faye, to stand for president. And running under the tagline, Diomaye is Sonko. So Diomaye was able to win the election and now is the youngest president on the African continent at the age of 44. So he appointed his mentor as prime minister. When I say that there is a wind of change sweeping across Senegal, this is exactly what I mean. And of course, Diomaye has promised sweeping changes over the government that has been led by Macky Sall for the last 20 years. We will be here to see what he's going to do and whether or not his promises will come to fruition. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am here with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very fine. Of course, now Senegal is making headlines from now seeing the appointment of a colleague to the youngest leader on the African continent. But I'm also excited on who will be in the White House with the president as well. Who will take the choice when it comes to the person going to State House with the president.
Given that he has
so it's a very interesting. We're still on Senegal. We're not yet done, as the media must say.
Yes, we are still on Senegal, but also coming back home here. Yesterday, the High Court made a ruling regarding the anti-gay bill. There was an appeal of the ruling, but the court stood on the same ground that it stood on a couple of months ago, and they say they agree with the bill, so it will not be overturned. Of course, some activists have promised to appeal, but for now, Uganda is against homosexuality. Now, I am not alone in studio. I'm not just with Robert Chirabo, but in the other studio, we have Jerome Paul Sonko and Chantal Olive Akandinda. And of course, together, we get through this morning's headlines and, of course, topical conversations. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a Thursday, and for some reason, I am struggling to keep reminding myself that it's a Thursday. This is one of the shortest weeks I've had to witness since the year began.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting, because we've been here since Monday.
But it still feels like a short week for some reason. Well, but it has also moved way faster. Now, you've been talking about how events have turned in Senegal, and well, what a way, what a strategic way to make sure that in one way or another you stay in power. That is by Sonko himself. So it is a very good move, and indeed for politics you have to be very strategic, really strategic, and that's what I could pick up from the incident that is happening in Senegal. But back in Uganda, some of the things that I have noticed about the Anti-Homosexuality Act is that they're not saying anything that is different from, you do not have to spread the gospel, you don't have to recruit people, but at the end of the day, if you're there and you're existing, you are existing, but please do not preach it and do not recruit, especially the children, into your activities. And that is where the main focus is at the moment.
Well, according to the court ruling, they struck down some sections of the Act, including sections 3, subsection 2, 9, and 11, close section 2, on grounds that they violate rights to health, housing, and privacy, especially concerning reporting. Now, of course, this is a new development because at first, all these clauses were there. But then civil society organizations told the president, asked the president to at least have a look at the then bill that later became an act. The president sent it back to Parliament and had some of the clauses removed. And of course, now the High Court has, or the Constitutional Court has also struck out some clauses. And we now remain with the act. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Good morning to you, and good morning to our dear viewer. Thursday is here. Many people in the entertainment world call it Baby Friday. Why is that so? Because it ushers you into the Friday mood.
That's
and
a new term.
Situation.
Very new
And
term.
you've mentioned about Sonko from Senegal. And one thing that actually crossed my mind yesterday was African politics do seem like they're actually under the same script, if
Why
I'm to put
so?
it in that
in
way.
this case, why so?
Because in this case, my worry is for the current president, that is Faye, is that how is he going to be working along with the prime minister? Many of the political analysts from West Africa are actually looking at it as a way of seeing Usman Sonko as a president as well. In in the guise or in the in the guise of being a prime minister, but I wouldn't want to go deep into it as much as the politics is concerned. But pretty much looking at it as a time for Africa to focus on how Senegal managed to push for democracy and also get a new president, a man who was in prison just 2 weeks before the poll. You can easily imagine. But when it also comes to matters to do with the Anti-Homosexuality Act, you get to realize that most of the activists wanted it nullified in its entire, in its entirety. And then the Constitutional Court did not agree to that because many of the petitioners, especially the gay rights activists who attended the ruling, were not happy. But then I quoted some of the things that were, noted by a renowned journalist, that is Andrew Mwenda, who said that, well, it is a win, but it's not an entire win. But then it's still a win-win kind of situation. And they will be going on to the Supreme Court to further petition against the ruling of the Constitutional Court. But we wait to see what will happen with what the Supreme Court will come out with at the end of it all. But that is where we stand as a country. But to our dear viewer, it is good to have you here on Good Morning Uganda. It is Thursday. The energy is right because we are likely to be heading into the weekend as early as tomorrow morning. And then next week, Eid is there. Yesterday, I actually bought my kanzu, so I'm already geared up.
The kanzu
Wow.
bit, I was not ready. Sonko, I don't know what. Very strategic, like his namesake, Usman Sonko.
Very
Clearly,
strategic.
something they
Says,
share something in
I
common.
must prepare for this food as early as possible.
There is
now,
something about
he's even bought
Sonko's.
a kanzu already.
Oh,
No, you know
well,
what's
the
passing
ladies
by?
are also buying abayas, but
No,
let's.
by the way, just a quick one. I was passing by downtown yesterday around Mukwano Arcade, and there was a viewer of Good Morning Uganda, and he's, I think he's a Haji or something, but he sells, and he calls me. It's like, Mr. Sonko. I'm like, who is this calling me Mr. Sonko? So he says, I watch Good Morning Uganda, and I'm here selling kanzus, for Eid and everything. And I told him, but I'm called Joram. I am not a Muslim. But then I remembered that maybe next week, one of my Hajjats will actually call me over for Eid. So why not? I accepted and bought a kanzu.
All right. Anyway, that's Sonko for you. Now I hear Hajats, Tai here, Joram. It's a morning of confusion, but
It's the confession of the Hajjats, not one, but Hajjats.
You see, I told
No,
you.
he's Sonkoling.
I told you that Sonko has a close resemblance to Senegal's new president. And now he's talking in the language of Hajjats. Well, we will know more about this story, and I will be updating you more about Sonko's life in future. But for now, let's give you updates in our local news.
And we'll begin with the ruling of the Constitutional Court yesterday, where the Constitutional Court dismissed a petition filed by a group of activists aimed at nullifying the recently passed Anti-Homosexuality Act. However, in its ruling, the court struck down some sections on the grounds that they violate the right to health, housing, and privacy, especially concerning reporting.
Now, moving on, President Museveni has tasked leaders at all levels to preach the gospel of household income generation to the masses in order to uplift communities. The president said this while hosting a group of exemplary farmers from the 9 villages of Gomba and Sembabule districts at his Kisozi farm. He was accompanied by the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Kataha Museveni.
And President Yoweri Museveni said that government is committed to promoting science and technology as one major way to enhance development. This was contained in the President's message delivered for him by the Right Honorable Prime Minister Robin Anabanja during the 40-year celebration and fundraising drive of Bwenyara Girls Secondary School in Tungamo District. The theme for the celebration was consolidating a holistic girl child, education for sustainable development.
And lastly, in our local news, the Budget Committee of Parliament has tasked the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to produce accountability of 4.05 trillion shillings spent without clear guidelines. The funds were spent in the financial year 2023-24 under an arrangement of statutory revision which seemed new to the members of Parliament. The members of Parliament questioned the legal framework which led to the expenditure from the Consolidated Fund despite apologies by the Minister of State for Finance, Henry Musasizi, who claimed that the expenditure was illegal. Now that does it for local news. Chantal Olive takes us through the international news.
Now, internationally, we start from France, where a couple has been banned from keeping pets, and this couple was found with about 159 cats. This French couple has been given a 1-year suspended sentence for keeping dozens of animals in cruel conditions. The couple from Nice has kept 159 cats and 7 dogs in their 80 square kilometer flat. Animals were discovered last year living in filth, many dehydrated, suffering from malnutrition or infected with parasites. The judge said the couple had failed to take appropriate care of the animals, and the couple, a woman 68 and a man 52, were also issued with permanent ban on keeping pets. They were ordered to pay more than 128,000 euros to animal rights charities and civil parties. Last year, police intervened in a dispute at the couple's flat and discovered the dozens of animals in each room. Authorities reported animal increment everywhere. Some of the cats and dogs subsequently died due to poor health. Away from that, Mark Owen Jones, assistant professor at the Hamad bin Khalifa University, says it is increasingly clear that Israel is deploying untested artificial intelligence systems in the Gaza war. This is an AI-assisted genocide, and going forward, there needs to be a call for a moratorium on the use of AI in the war, Jones said. The UN is pausing nighttime aid operations in Gaza as calls for Israel to be held accountable for the deadly attack on a food aid convoy continue. Israel calls up air defense reservists for duty 2 days after suspected Israeli missile attack killed 7 people at the Iranian consulate in Syria's capital, Damascus. Israel Army Chief says Israel wants movement in captive talks, but Hamas's Haniyeh says Israel continues to evade the group's requests, which include a ceasefire, food, and for people in Gaza to be able to return to their homes. At least 32,975 Palestinians have been killed and 75,577 wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since the October 7th, while the death toll in Israel still remains the same. Now back to Africa, Botswana's president has threatened to send 20,000 elephants to Germany in a dispute over conservation. Angered by proposals in Berlin to restrict the import of hunting trophies, President Masisi said in comments published yesterday that Germans should try living among elephants. He claimed that an explosion in the number of mammals roaming his country has produced a plague. Earlier this year, Germany, one of the largest importers of hunting trophies in European Union, raised the possibility of stricter limits on imports due to poaching concerns. Masisi told German Daily Bild that hunting was an important means to keep elephant numbers in check, saying that Botswana was dealing with overpopulation. Now, speaking matters climate, the complexities of climate change and its associated jargon can make it difficult to digest. The Cable's Climate Quick Facts will help to demystify these climate concepts through easy-to-understand and straight-to-the-point explanations. Here are some of the keep at the tip of your fingers. Here are some to keep at the tip of your fingers. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says many of the changes observed in the climate, such as continued sea level rise, are already set in motion and are irreversible over hundreds to thousands of years. The organization said it could take 20 to 30 years to see global temperatures stabilize. Warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius will lead to a reduction of rainforest biomass and will increase deforestation and wildfires, according to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The Global Commission on Adaptation said restoring upland forests can help 534 of the world's largest cities regulate their flows and manage more extreme floods. This, the organization said, could save an estimated $890 million per year. That's it for climate news and what is happening across the world.
It's 12 minutes to the top of the hour, but still we have so much more for you. And Jerome Paul Sonko is now taking us through the press review for this morning.
And while with the press review this morning, the New Vision kicks it off as details on how judges ruled. Court upholds the anti-gay law. The New Vision is highlighting a pictorial of the court proceedings yesterday in the Constitutional Court. Then Education Ministry shortlists 538 for deputy head teacher positions across the country. Now, over 190 tenders available for those seeking opportunities in Uganda and the National Council for Higher Education. Then also read about defilement. Report on ex-Chambogo Deputy Vice Chancellor has been released. And in today's New Vision, UPDF facilities, General Muhoozi hails Commando Unit. As in the national budget, how 58 trillion Ugandan shillings will be shared in the next financial year. Now, matters business, traders up in arms over Uganda Revenue Authority operations. That and more is with today's New Vision. Now, we look at what the Daily Monitor is highlighting this Thursday. The Daily Monitor is highlighting donors go to drawing board over the gay verdict. Then there is also a highlight of how the judges decided on the same decision yesterday. Then in today's Daily Monitor, court ruling, hours after the Constitutional Court delivered the judgment, both the United States and the World Bank, who have been vocal on the case, had not issued statements. The petitioners in Uganda are spoiling for a Supreme Court battle. Now, DM Today matters. Is politics fueling border chaos? Read about that and what the Daily Monitor is highlighting. And then matters business. Government proposes 0.5 tax on agent banking transactions. How will that be done? Followable with the Daily Monitor. Now we cross the borders to Kenya. The Kenya's Daily Nation is highlighting Donald Trump calls migrants animals as U.S. presidential campaign WhatsApp. That is with the Daily Nation. Then Raila warns against ODM divisions as party announces staggered elections as succession wrangles have rocked the opposition party. Now, controversy. More than half of 1,406 revenue service assistant posts went to 2 communities. How ruling elite shared the Kenya Revenue Authority jobs. That is with the Daily Nation. Now, there is a report from Easter Joy to Pain. Family loses 6 in crash. That is a sad report, a pictorial of some of the family members that have gone too soon, including young ones. Then transport, enforce traffic rules for drivers of school buses. Parents have urged as doctors reject state offer as Nakumicha faces Ulster. That is in matters to do with new health authority setting date for the start of the deductions. Well, lastly, from our press review this morning is the Citizen from Tanzania. Major projects are on track as 10.7 trillion Tanzanian shillings has been spent on the standard gauge railway. That is with the Daily, that is with the Citizen newspaper. Then what introduction of Personal Data Protection Commission means, read about it in the Citizen. Amos Makala is CCM's new propaganda chief. Read about what is coming in from the Chama Pinduzi party. Then universal health insurance to start this month, says the government of Tanzania. Then in the Rising Woman Citizen series, Angel on journalism and commerce, enjoy the best of both worlds. That is with the Citizen. And well, that is what we've been able to gather for you from our press review this Thursday.
Well, thank you so much, Joram Paul Sonko. Now, today being Thursday, we throw back to some of the key events that happened in history. And on 4th April 1968, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., at the age of 39, was shot and killed while standing on a balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. And this sparked off riots in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Chicago, and many young people were attacked and affected around this time. The day before, he had given what is now known as his last speech, where he said, and I quote, he said that he told a rally of striking sanitation workers in Memphis, and he said, and I quote, "I've been to the mountaintop and seen the promised land. I may not get there with you." The next day, on the 4th of April, he was assassinated. We remember Martin Luther King Jr. today. Now, on Good Morning Uganda, we also entertain you, and we will leave you with Moses Radio and Weasel with plenty. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Hams Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Morning Uganda, and the time check is 2 minutes past 7 o'clock. Welcome once again. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for being a part of this great program that starts your day and takes you up until 9 a.m. We start at 6:30 every morning, Monday to Friday, and we usually have topical discussions, have conversations with policy makers and opinion leaders in our country. And of course, we delve into issues of national importance. Now, yesterday, the Constitutional Court made a ruling standing by the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023, saying that it is in line with the values and the constitution of the land. Of course, activists that were against this act were not happy. Yes, some of them say we had a bit of wins because some clauses and sections were struck down, but others wanted the entire bill to be, the entire act to be struck out in its entirety. Now, what is in the act? And what were the activists looking for in a further context? That's what we are looking into this morning. I am with Jerome Paul Sonko, and of course Chantal Olive Akandinda will be joining us from Studio 2. You can be a part of this conversation through WhatsApp number 0709-602-592. And those of you on the X app, you can share your views as well. The hashtag is UBCGMU. You can also send direct messages. We will be able to share them. So share your comments regarding the ruling the Constitutional Court made in regards to the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023. Jerome Paul, good morning.
Good morning to you. And you know, you've been mentioning about you know, fully nullifying it. In 2014, the same court nullified entirely when the act had been passed for the first time. And then, of course, the petitioners, some of which are actually part of the same, or what you could call the gay rights activists as well, were celebrating highly back then. That was close to 10 years back.
Because that one was overturned.
That one was overturned. But this time around, they are not so happy. But to them, it is a win. A win is a win. They have some, you know, some clauses that they feel.
What are some of these clauses where they feel that they won?
One where they actually won was there was a clause in Section 9 that had pinned property owners on the wall if they rented out premises, such as houses and hotels, to persons who were engaging in activities that had been criminalized under the Anti-Homosexuality Act.
Yes.
So in such a situation, whereby if Olive, you are owning a property, or let's say a house, and then you're renting it out to, let's say, someone who belongs to the LGBT, then you would also get penalized by the same law. So when you look at some of this, and then also going back to health services or health centers that were also pinned with the law initially when it comes to treating persons that belong to the LGBTQ. All of these are some of you know, the few sections that were a bit, you know, twisted, or the better way is nullified with the Constitutional Court or the constitutional ruling. So that means treatment is open for these persons, and the health services will be offered to those who will be going in to, you know, for further treatment of the like. That is for people that belong to the LGBTQ. And of course, it was also something that would be welcomed by the health services, who by the law were being pinned for offering these services to the LGBTQ community. And of course, when you look at what the activists are fully looking into, is the fact that they feel pushing this as a criminal offense is something they are not happy with.
Yes.
Most of the activists. So they feel if they go to the Supreme Court, this as well should be cancelled out with the law.
All right. Now we will be going to Chantal Olive in Studio 2 to share with us what mainly the law was actually targeting. Who is this act trying to protect? Because this conversation started with a letter that was allegedly written by a parent claiming that her child in one of the key, or what you'd call Ivy League schools in Uganda, had been molested by a male teacher. Chantal, what is, which group of people is this act mainly targeting to protect?
Oh, thank you, Olive. Well, this act mainly targets school-going children, trying to protect them from any of these incidents that could take place, from the example of the different schools that had been named to have victims of homosexuality assault, if I may put it like that. And that is why, after President Museveni had assented to the bill last year, that was in May, when he was giving his address in June, that was the following month, still last year, he had to clarify, because we all do remember that the World Bank started withdrawing lending. We remember that the US also put some travel restrictions on our country, and especially some top politicians. So President Museveni came out to make some clarifications and said, listen, these people can exist, but do not promote, do not exhibit, do not recruit, but you can exist. So but there is a death penalty for some of those individuals that take part in what you would call aggravated homosexuality, which includes those that I've just mentioned, like rape or forcing someone into homosexuality acts. So majorly, this act was put in place to protect the school-going children from being molested by people in in their different schools.
Well, thank you, Chantal. And still back to you. What are some of the penalties that are being spelled out by this act?
Well, one of the penalties being spelled out that President Museveni insists was a death penalty for the aggravated ones. However, there is also a not less than 20 years prison sentence if you are found guilty of anything like aggravated homosexuality.
Interesting. Wow. Do we know how many years?
Over 20 years. Not less than 20 years.
Not less than 20 years.
Yes.
Aggravated. And when we say aggravated homosexuality, what exactly do we mean?
Well, when you talk about aggravated homosexuality, you're talking about exhibitionism, you're talking about promoting sexual orientation, you're talking about performing homosexuality acts or sex on another person. That is like literally raping someone, which we saw raping and defiling, which we saw with some of those schools that birthed this very act. So those are some of the things that we talk about when we talk about aggravated.
Okay, now, ever since the president assented to the bill back in 2023, there has been a backlash from the Western Bloc against Uganda. And of course, the World Bank, as Chantal put it, even threatened to withdraw some of the aid that it was giving to the country. Now, we know that sectors like education, health, and water are mainly funded by Western countries. So, Joram Paul Sonko, what kind of aid has been coming into Uganda, let's say in the health sector? How much money have we been getting as a country from some of these countries, and how much are we maybe going to lose in the event that they decide to pull out entirely?
Well, when you look at the figures, you cannot easily get the direct figures, but every financial year, you do realize we have financing coming in from the World Bank. You get to realize that most of our credit, you know, when the government is actually seeking for credit, it's the alternative source of credit has always been the World Bank as well as the International Monetary Fund. And in this incident, the World Bank has, of course, they were fully following the proceedings of the Constitutional Court yesterday. Not only the World Bank, even the United States government. Why? Because we've been able to receive aid from the US aid, that is the United States, which was fully supportive of Uganda. And last year, when this was actually enacted into law, the anti-homosexuality, then a bill, became an act. The World Bank released a report that it will suspend further funding to the government of Uganda. Of course, according to the World Bank, the money that was, or the credit that was already in discussion or in line to come will automatically come. But then further funding will no longer be coming to Uganda, not until they are certain about the law, or not until the law is fully, nullified. And when you talk about matters to do with the US, we've seen these sanctions coming up. There was even a time last year where Uganda was suspended from AGOA, which was also highly pushed to the Anti-Homosexuality Act. And in such situations, with AGOA as a trade agreement, it becomes very difficult for Uganda or for Ugandan exporters to export their goods to the United States. So economically, it puts us in a situation where at times we are going to struggle. But the president has further, reassured Ugandans that we can survive on our own because we do have the resources. But when you look at the treasury, or our national treasury, or the national basket, at times money coming in from the, US aid and the World Bank normally goes to our education sector, especially if you've been to public schools and health services or public hospitals. You'll get to realize there are buildings that are fully funded by either the World Bank or the US aid, and it will be well encrypted. Most of, let's say, HIV financing that comes in from the US, free drugs that come in for the patients of HIV and AIDS, all of these are at risk because of the same law. And when you look at it from, the point of what we stand to lose, well, we stand to lose this credit that has been coming in to the country, and that means we have to seek for alternative options, which may not be in the short term, because we've been working so much with the World Bank and, of course, the IMF and even the USA in regards to the aid that we've been receiving in the long run.
All right. Now, looking at some reports, back in 2020, Uganda received about $300 million from the US, that was for COVID-19 financing. And of course, many people have been raising examples like this to show that this may actually be putting the nation in a precarious position.
Though, Olive, just a quick one. The World Bank is actually having an existing $5.2 billion portfolio in Uganda. And these are projects that are supposed to be worked upon. Those, for now, will not be affected because they were already decided, or the agreements were already put on paper right before the act was put in place.
Okay. Now, last year, the government said it was not moved by the threats by the World Bank to cut further funding to Uganda. But now this conversation is back on the table with the overturning of the petition against the Anti-Homosexuality Act by the Constitutional Court yesterday. Where is the country going? Henceforth, we will be here to know the further situation. But also there have been questions that have been being raised, and concerns where people are saying that is there a way the government can deal with the noise that is coming from the ruling and help the country not to actually be blacklisted in terms of aid?
Well, it is. It goes both ways, I should say, because when you look at Western powers, I even saw a statement coming in from the European Union. Most of them were watching closely, or are watching closely on such a situation. Because when you also look at the UN Charter that pretty much protects the rights of individuals and everybody, you get to realize that they find or look at this law as something that does not push for human rights, or that is against the rights of those who belong to the LGBTQ community. But since last year, the government has been, having these endless conversations, really, with the different partners who thought or who came out to, publicly criticize the government on such a move. And the government has, has been able to come out to work hand in hand with them to ensure that the funding continues to come. Though the other parties are only willing to continue with the funding if the act is, the law is fully nullified.
Yes.
Which, on the other hand, the government is still, because when you look at what the members of parliament shared yesterday as the Constitutional Court was sitting, most of the members of parliament as well, who sided with enacting this law, were saying they are not going to be threatened to them by the Western powers, because this to them is protecting the community of Uganda.
And the norms
I
of the land.
I still
Yes,
think
Shanta.
we are suffering from the same problem, and that is how information is disseminated in this country, and that goes back down to how we've had discussions here on sensitization, even for our projects. So when you try to follow this conversation, you realize that the moment we said the bill is now a law, it's now an act. Those who came out had something to say and they said it, not get into the detail of what was there. Then after that, that's when we got into the detail and had to have these adjustments made. However, it's now that people should be knowing that they're not saying do not exist, but you cannot go ahead promoting pronouns, for example, or sexual orientation. You cannot go ahead exhibiting and recruiting people, and that is information that should be known. And as the Western world watches and scrutinizes and listens, no one has been killed, for example, in our country because of this issue. We've had cases, yes, of people who have been attacked, and we've heard of mob justice. Even in countries like Kenya, we've heard about these things. We've seen documentaries and all. But the point is, if information goes out the way it is supposed to be flowing, with clear communication, definitely this problem should not be, this problem would be handled at the end of it all.
Well, the World Bank last year said that it had frozen approving loans to Uganda over the anti-gay law, which they said contradicts the bank's values and vision of eradicating poverty on a livable planet, which can only succeed if it includes everyone irrespective of race, gender, or sexuality. That was the point of the World Bank last year. Now, coming back to coming back to the Constitutional Court's ruling, and of course the effect that has overcome, the conversation started, and you can join this conversation by commenting on the Constitutional Court's position overturning the petition against the Anti-Homosexuality Act. The petitioners wanted the act to be overturned in its entirety, like it was the case back in 2014. But this time round, the Constitutional Court stood with the act. And of course, legislators were happy about this.
I was about the other question to do with development partners of Uganda and the West. I've been looking at Andrew Mwenda's opinions on the X app yesterday.
One of the chief petitioners.
Yes, one of the chief petitioners, who is also a journalist. He was actually, he quoted and said, "To our friends in the Western world, please keep out of this debate. We appreciate your solidarity, but we do not need your support. Your involvement with sanctions and travel bans distorts the whole issue." He puts it in this way and says, "It does make it like you want to impose these values of the West to the Ugandans." And he believes that this is going to undermine local agency, for we come across as your fifth columnists. Your threats of sanctions and travel and visa bans also undermine the legitimacy of decisions by judges, as the public may think if they annul the law, it's because you had your guns on their heads. I think he's with his statement here, it fully says that he does not want the West to, come up with statements or get directly involved, because many of the Ugandans will feel that if the law or the act is nullified today, it is because maybe the West had put their guns onto the Ugandans. So he has some interesting takes on here. But of course, he's one of the chief petitioners, so you would want to believe his take is one to think about.
And of course, in the last petition, he was still he was still one of the chief petitioners that were able to have the act overturned. Now, President Yoweri Museveni last year also told development partners and of course told the country to prepare for increased economic pressures resulting from the decisions like the World Bank's decision to halt future funding for Uganda. And the Minister for ICT, Chris Baryomonsi, said, we are going to invest more in our country's production and services to reduce dependence on foreign aid. This was Chris Baryomonsi's take. Now, Chantal, this being put in consideration, in what ways do you think the country or the government is going to endeavor to see that we don't depend on foreign aid, but we can still manage to survive as a country?
One of the ways is we've seen these interventions that have been suggested. The unfortunate bit is that most of them have not been taken on. But you can look at things like cutting down our administrative costs as a country. I would suggest that as like one of the measures. As one of the measures. But also, let's look at corruption and embezzlement, because even when the aid comes in, when you read reports, when you go back to read about follow these events, you realize that it's from time immemorial that these donors and funders have been complaining that Ugandans or the leaders, some of the leaders in Uganda or in different positions, do not use the money for what it's supposed to be. And at the end of the day, that's why you have the question of, if we are not using the money that is being donated, not even borrowed, but donated to us for the right cause, if we are embezzling it and we are not seeing people being put to the task of even returning it, or very few of those are being put to the task of returning it and apprehended, that means we are still going to be facing the same problem. Also, what is the use of this money that we are borrowing, that is being donated, and we are not putting it to the right use? So we might as well just do away with the donors and the borrowing and still find ways of surviving. So that means we can do it. Let's cut down administrative costs. Let's apprehend people who are caught in issues to do with corruption and embezzlement, so that we save on the money that we can allocate in other areas and see how we do business. Plus, I will really side with President Museveni when he says that we can do business without the West at a certain point. And also do remember that the West needs us. The problem is we've been fashioned to think that we need them more. But when you go back down to the detail, where do most of the raw material they use come from, you will know that Africa is actually needed by the West.
And also on matters borrowing, by the way, yesterday with the Permanent Secretary to the Treasury, while appearing on the Behind the Headlines show here, revealed that what they are thinking of in regards to the next financial year is they do not want to borrow because they've been borrowing with a high interest rate of 8%, and they opted not to borrow the planned $414 million that they were supposed to go for in the next financial year. And one of the means is to ensure that they are going to cut on the transport, or travel allowances and exactly the kind of expenditures that do not add value as such to our country. So we'll wait to see how that will be highly infected. Though I would feel we still need the aid, because when someone is giving you something on a free, you would want to have it. It's
not entirely free, but
it does,
because we pay back. But it does help, and it plays quite a pivotal role to the country. Now, it's important to note that the particular clause that imposed the death penalty on aggravated homosexuality had left human rights activists and the West in a touchy note. But in June last year, the president, that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who assented to the Anti-Homosexuality Act on May 26, 2023, told the West that the new law had been misinterpreted. And he clarified that the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023 forbids recruitment by homosexuals of non-gay people into the practice of homosexuality, exhibitionism, and promoting of sexual orientation and performing homosexual sex on another person. And he also clarified that the legislation he signed into law does not criminalize those who identify as LGBTQ+, but still prescribes the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality. He said, and I quote, "The law now says that a homosexual will not be criminalized for merely being so. If one keeps the being to oneself," he said. And he again said, I quote, "What then does the law fight? It fights this homosexual when he or she goes from merely being and starts recruiting other people by misinforming or bribing, among others." And he added, "There he becomes a criminal and, if convicted, goes to prison for a period not exceeding 20 years. Those were the comments of the president, by the president, after he assented to the Anti-Homosexual Act 2023. Chantal, do we have any feedback?
Yes, we do have some feedback from some individuals now. This one is called Livingston Chigwe. He says, "Thank you, Oli, for the show. I am Chigwe Livingston of Ndeje Division Reza. The ruling has no problem since all the 5 judges unanimously dismissed the case. I know the petitioners will not disturb the judiciary anymore." The other comment is coming in from Cricket Derek Gargamel, and he says, "Good morning, family. Homosexuality is evil, which must be condemned in all ways. If the so-called activists are looking for laxity in the law against it, then we are not safe with the elites of nowadays. Even if World Bank withdraw their funds to Uganda, we prefer being poor but with values of life. How I wish anyone who comes up to advocate for laxity in the law is jailed as well. If God destroyed the whole city, including innocent ones, because of such things, where do the so-called freedom fighters, politicians, activists, human rights organizations, and some church leaders as well get the courage to come up and sugarcoat such abomination? Over the world is ending," says Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makindi Luafu. That is it for the comments that we have this morning.
Well, thank you so much for your views, Cricket Derek, and the other viewers
Livingston.
that contributed. Yes, now, as we close, Andrew Mwenda did say that they left the court feeling the glass half full, half empty, partial victory, but in all, they said they are going to appeal. Now, we wait to see if this appeal will see the light of day, and whether they will now have a win, an entirety in the nullification. And if not so, then this will remain as the law of the land, that Uganda is against the recruitment of people into homosexuality. This is Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive, and we still continue. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
So this is my general perception. One, that this project entered in strategic areas of government, but that it has created a base for the now last mile strategy, which is the Paris development model. And therefore this base that it has left will help us actually, and I'm sure we'll get better results in a Chole area and Adjumani when we are implementing the Paris development model.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
So right now, I'm actually holding a Honeli chameleon. And it is said that these ones are commonly found in the Mount Elgon region because they usually love cold places. But it is amazing to know that there is a lot we can do as humans to conserve the wildlife. Imagine if I found this somewhere else, maybe close to my house, close to my compound, I would hit it immediately, not knowing that it is not even dangerous. So this is the conservation that we actually want in our country, seeing that everyone is able to play a role to conserve the wildlife, the very many beautiful wildlife species that we have in the country. I am Irene Alenamisang, and this is the DMU Tourism Express, where we talk about everything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. And when we talk about tourism, we cannot skip conservation. It is a very beautiful part that makes up the tourism industry. So right now we are at CTC Conservation Center, and we're exploring the different species that we have that are kept here at the CTC Conservation Center. And yes, we are going to do this. Let's roll.
Welcome to CTC. My name is Ambrose. I'll be taking you through. We're going to be dealing with wild animals. Hopefully you came prepared for that, for the best experience. They can kick, they can scratch, they can bite if you don't follow the instructions. But if you follow the instructions, none of the above will happen to you. Make sure when you're with the zebras, you do not go behind them. They are very good at kicking, like horses do. We have foot dips on every section that we have to be precautions not to carry germs and diseases to them. So we must disinfect, we must step in. Animals you're not contented holding, please just ignore them instead of dropping them. And then when you come into the lion section, people will be there to ensure you're all safe. They are playful, they are babies, just like small cats at home. They can scratch in any way, but the staffs will be in to ensure you're all safe. So please, if you have questions, feel free to ask us, and you'll really have the best experience. You're welcome. CTC is conservation through commercialization. The foot dips. So you step in, there is a disinfectant. So you step in, then you come in. And from this side. We shall begin from this side. It's this side. No. And over here we have the Nile crocodile. His name is Big Joe. Big Joe is a rescue from Buyukwe district that is along the Nile. And before he was brought here, he had eaten 3 fishermen. So he's a man-eater. He knows how human flesh tastes. He's estimated to be over 80 years old and between 900 to 1,000 kilograms. Crocodiles are semi-aquatic. Sometimes they can stay in water, sometimes on land. So now it is on land. And then we are also emptying its water pond so that we can clean it and maintain it, know that the water is drinking. They don't eat a lot in nature, crocodiles. They can eat once in a few months and they are okay. He eats once in a week here, like 5 chicken, that's it. And the reason why is they have a lower metabolic rate, so they need a lot of time to digest whatever they have eaten. In nature, if it really eats well, it can go even beyond 6 months without eating. And they are very lazy animals. He can be in the same position for more than 6 hours. He has been here from morning and up to now he's still here. He moves, yeah. He moves around. You can see where he began from. You can see the grass is down. He was there in the morning. Then now he extended here.
No, just like how cute he is. Just take us through the process of rescuing this man.
Actually, by that time I was not yet here, but they are not very hard to trap them. The moment they tap the mouth and the tail, they are the strongest parts of the crocodile. You can use the tail to hit you, and then the mouth, of course, they can bite. When they are in water, they are very fast. Now here on land, they are very slow. Like 4 years ago. We had the female, but unfortunately she died. She was also very old, but before she died, they had already laid eggs. Crocodiles lay eggs, they don't produce, so we have the first hatchlings. And when she also died, she had eggs in her. When we were doing post-mortem report, we found out that she had eggs, so we picked the eggs and kept them and incubated. Now we have other that have hatched from that. So at least we never lost the mother alone. Now we have at least some babies.
I think there is a crocodile farm.
Yes. Actually, it's not in Mpiji, I think. Is it? Not so sure, but on Masaka Road.
How are you working together? Because for them, they keep the crocodiles from it.
Us, basically, we have these ones for conservation. We don't. These animals also, they matter in nature, and there is a law there is a law at least they play, so they shouldn't be killed. Buyukwe, along the Nile. Yes, you know, River Nile passes Buyukwe. Don't put it so near, eh? Not really, I've never had that incident. I don't think. So we are emptying now, we are emptying this so that we can clean. You see the water, it is always full, so we are emptying it to clean it, and then we add fresh water. That's why you see the water level is down now.
Well, as you're traveling to Uganda, I would definitely recommend and suggest do pass by CTC Conservation Center. It's the only place in Uganda where you get up and close with animals. You will feed the zebras and interact with lions. You'll have lemurs sitting on your shoulders, and you'll have a beautiful day here. So I would definitely suggest do pass by CTC when you have a chance.
And here we are with the latest from the world of business. Good morning. Many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. And our business update this morning kicks off from the Kampala City Traders Association, who last week announced that on the 16th of April, they will be holding a strike, or they will be holding a demonstration. Now, matters dealing with IFRIs, dealing with unfavorable tax policies, are one of those reasons as to why the traders under this Kasita body, or the umbrella body that takes over traders in Kampala, are going to hit the streets on a strike. Now, to resort to a strike, the traders feel that they've been in a situation for a long time where Uganda Revenue Authority per se is not thinking about making some changes in or trying to make easy, try to make it easy for them in regards to exporting and, of course, the taxes that are greatly imposed on them. If no solution is found and the conditions remain persistent, the traders feel that they will continue making strides for a strike. Why? Because they feel that the business community has become very difficult, and they are likely to run out of the business if at all some of these policies are not worked upon, especially when you look at the current tax regime, which is quite unfavorable to them. And then also some other matters that were addressed by the Kampala City Traders Association are matters to do with the rent in Kampala, or the Kampala arcades as well, which they believe the rent charges are really high, and yet many businesses are still surviving. Others still under the shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic, while others are not making as much money as the taxman or their landlords may assume. Now, the only glimmer of hope for them now is the hope meeting with the president that they are looking forward to later this month. That is something that we'll be giving you more updates to, or shall be keeping you up to speed with the same, as the traders will strike on the 16th of April 2024. We only wait to see whether the strike will go on as planned, but according to the traders, they will be holding this strike not until the government comes out to solve their grievances. And now, away from the taxman and the Kampala City Traders Association, we now talk matters tourism. As we head to the Uganda Wildlife Education Center, formerly the zoo, the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, UWEC, has issued new entry charges that will start effectively 1st of July this year. And this is all aimed at proper sustainability of the center and also boost domestic tourism in the country. Dr. James Musinguzi, who is the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Education Conservation Center, revealed that they are yet to introduce new animals like wild dogs and kangaroos at the zoo that will boost the visitors' experience for those that will be going in there. Not only domestic tourists, by the way, even foreign tourists who will be coming in to tour the country. Now, visitors' experience and animal welfare is one of the reasons as to why these charges will be increased a little bit because they want to enhance the experience of a tourist and also try to see that they can be able to sustain these particular animals. And in matters to do with sustainability includes adding onto the budget that they receive from the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, and then also to see that they increase on the health of these animals, or to improve on the health standards of these animals with these funds that are collected at the gates of the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. Now, the ED, Dr. James Musinguzi, noted that it has taken the center close to 10 years to adjust on the entry fees. The former Entebbe Zoo is yet to introduce new animals in addition, and also to the existing animals. So animals like the wild dogs, like I've mentioned, kangaroos, will be on their way to Uganda. With funding from Government of Uganda and the World Bank, UWEC has also embarked on the journey to improve on the infrastructure, which includes revamping its road network within UWEC, and then also improving and strengthening the giraffe holdings, elephant holdings, and also expanding the animals hospital and building a biobank. So Uganda Wildlife Conservation Center in Entebbe is also a center that cares for rescued animals, often victims of bushmeat trade, habitat destruction, or illegal trade, and also facilitates education, especially for students in tourism, and also those students who are generally still in school or pupils and high school students who normally go in for study tours and the like. And generally, matters to do with climate change and environment conservation, your work is also still one of the agencies in Uganda or the government bodies that are pushing for the same. Lastly, from our business world this morning, we head to the south of the continent, to the Republic of South Africa, because news coming in have revealed that the South African Prime Minister, the South African Parliament Speaker rather, has resigned amid corruption probe. The South Africa's National Assembly Speaker, Nosimviwe Mapisa Nkakula, said on Wednesday that she was resigning from her position amid an investigation in alleged corruption during her tenure as defense minister. Now, Mapisa's home was raided last month by investigators as part of the corruption inquiry, who did not provide details on the investigation or the allegations. And she revealed that her resignation is in no way an indication or admission of guilt regarding the allegations being leveled against me, she further revealed in a statement. The resignation, which is effective immediately, also sees her stepping down as Member of Parliament. And Mapisa Nkakula was the first minister from 2012 to 2021. South Africa's state-owned broadcaster that does the same job that we do, that is the South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC, reported that she is suspected of receiving millions of rand in cash as bribes from a former military contractor. Now, Mapisa took special leave after the raid and on Tuesday this week lost a court bid to block authorities from arresting her. She is yet to be charged with any crimes, and no formal announcements about her possible arrests have been made by the police. Now, lastly, we look at the forex market. For those who are moving out to exchange some currencies, this is how you will be finding the forex market, courtesy of the Bank of Uganda. Well, yesterday opening time saw the US dollar buy at 3,874.38 while selling at 3,884.38. Closing time, the US dollar was buying at 3,859.67, a slight drop, while selling at 3,869.67 and further dropping by a few shillings. And the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,864.71 while selling at 4,877.28. And then the euro was buying at 4,158.40 while selling at 4,169.18 shillings. And moving forward, the Kenyan shilling was buying at 29.40 shillings while selling at 29.48 shillings. As the South African, as the Tanzanian shilling dropped to 1.49 shillings. That is for those buying, and also selling to 1.49 shillings. And that is down from the 1.50 Ugandan shillings. And the South African rand was buying at 205.43 shillings while selling at 205.96 shillings. Of course, looking at that forex market and how the currencies were faring. As of close of business Tuesday, you get to realize that by Wednesday, a few of these currencies were dropping for those who are moving out to exchange some currencies or for those who are into forex trading. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Monday next week is when I'll be returning with business updates. So stick around to Good Morning Uganda though, because Olive Monica Najuma is right here to give you more updates from our traffic.
Well, Jerome Paul Sonko, you did share a story from the Republic of South Africa about their speaker that has stepped down due to corruption allegations. Now, what I found interesting about this story is the fact that the cases or the allegations against her did not happen when she was speaker. They happened way before she became speaker.
But she was still in service when she was a defense minister. So before she was actually voted into the current presidential term as the speaker. But so you get to realize that these are charges that continue recurring, and then someone is actually, you know, running out of office, or they are actually out of office, because now she can't serve as a member of parliament. She can't as well serve as the speaker to parliament because of corruption tendencies.
Corruption tendencies. One thing I know about politics is that some of these things are going to follow you around.
Very true.
And one day, the roof, so to speak, caves in. Well, I know a country, but we continue with traffic updates. My name is Olive Monica Najima, and we start from Bwaise roundabout, going through Sir Apollo Kagwa, continuing to the heart of town. Now, around the roundabout at Bwaise, we see that we have red zones here and there coming in from Bombo Road. Actually, right before the roundabout, if you're coming from the side of Kawempe and Bwaise, you're going to experience a delay just before the roundabout. I see that Naweru Road is actually very red this morning, which indicates traffic jam going that side of town. Now back to the roundabout itself, I see that we have some orange zones, a few red zones here and there, but after the roundabout, following the route that takes you through